Most people think they make decisions because something is better, because the facts are clearer, because the logic is stronger. But psychology shows something quieter. We often choose not because we are pulled forward, but because we are pushed by discomfort. The human brain does not tolerate uncertainty for long. Ambiguity drains us. It spreads into sleep, into mood, into attention. Failure has edges. You can point to it. You can name it. But uncertainty has no borders. It becomes everywhere. And that is why people often feel relief after making a hard choice, even before they know whether it was correct. Commitment collapses infinite possibilities into one path, and with that collapse comes focus. The mind prefers a painful certainty over an endless question. This is why indecision is so exhausting, not because we lack intelligence, but because the brain treats unresolved choice as unfinished danger. When options remain open, the nervous system stays alert. It scans. It compares. It imagines alternative futures. And the imagination is not peaceful. It is loud. It creates parallel lives we will never live. Each one becomes a silent pressure. So eventually, the decision is not about what is best. It is about what ends attention. People choose to stop feeling suspended. They choose to stop carrying the weight of possibility. Even regret is easier than endless ambiguity, because regret is contained. Indecision is not. Indecision lingers everywhere. It becomes a background noise. The longer it stays, the more the mind begins to mistake delay for safety. But delay is not safety. Delay is simply another form of fear. The brain often confuses waiting with control. It tells us, if you do not decide, you cannot be wrong. But psychologically, not choosing is still a choice. It is choosing uncertainty. And uncertainty is the slowest kind of loss, because it steals clarity one day at a time. People imagine that clarity arrives only when the perfect answer appears. But the truth is that clarity often comes after commitment, not before it. The mind does not always discover meaning through analysis. Sometimes it discovers meaning through action. This is why so many people spend years circling the same crossroads, hoping certainty will appear like a sign. But the brain cannot live forever in the space between. Eventually, the nervous system demands an ending, even if the ending is imperfect. There is another pattern hidden inside human behavior. People are more sensitive to loss than they are attracted to gain. Even when improvement is real, loss feels louder. The brain interprets loss as threat. And when something familiar disappears, the mind experiences it almost like betrayal, not because the object was perfect, but because the attachment was. Familiarity creates psychological ownership. We do not only own things with our hands. We own them with memory, with routine, with expectation. And when that ownership is disturbed, resistance rises, anger rises, grief rises. The reaction is often disproportionate to the change itself, because the brain is not reacting to the object. It is reacting to the meaning. Loss is symbolic. It tells the nervous system, something can be taken, something can shift. The world is unstable. This is why nostalgia is so powerful. It is not love for the past. It is fear of losing what once felt secure. And this is why letting go rarely feels like progress. Letting go feels like disappearance. The mind clings hardest when something is slipping away. Scarcity amplifies desire. When a door closes, what remains becomes heavier, more emotional, more necessary. Not because it changed, but because freedom did. The brain does not calmly evaluate. It reacts. It mourns before it understands. And so people often chase what they did not value yesterday, simply because today it feels threatened. This is not weakness. It is design. The nervous system evolved to protect what is familiar, because familiarity once meant survival. The problem is that modern life turns this ancient mechanism into suffering. We cling to relationships that have ended. We cling to identities that no longer fit. We cling to options that are already gone. And the mind calls it loyalty, but often it is fear. Fear of the void. Fear of the unknown. Fear that release means collapse. But psychologically, holding on does not stop loss. It only prolongs the struggle against reality. Sometimes what we call attachment is simply the mind refusing to accept change. And the deeper the attachment, the more the brain confuses release with abandonment. Yet life moves forward regardless. The question is not whether things will change, but whether we will suffer by resisting what cannot be held. This is why so many human conflicts are not about the present, but about control. People do not always want the object. They want to recover the feeling of agency they believe they lost. The mind would rather fight than accept helplessness. And this is where many mistakes begin, because the brain is faster than wisdom. Emotion moves quicker than reflection. The moment freedom feels threatened, desire inflates. Attachment intensifies. And people mistake intensity for truth. They believe the strongest feeling must be the correct one. But often, intensity is simply the nervous system defending itself. The deepest trap is that the brain treats letting go as failure, when in reality, letting go is often the beginning of stability. Closure may hurt, but open endings haunt. A decision may bring regret, but indecision spreads everywhere. Peace is not found in keeping every possibility alive. Peace is found in choosing clearly, and then allowing the mind to settle into one reality. The strongest people are not those who never doubt. They are those who can tolerate doubt without being ruled by it, because life will always contain uncertainty. There will always be doors you cannot open, futures you cannot test, answers you cannot guarantee. The goal is not perfect certainty. The goal is psychological resilience, the ability to live without needing every outcome resolved. When you accept that not every choice can be proven in advance, you stop chasing impossible safety. You stop negotiating endlessly with fear. And something quiet happens. The mind begins to loosen. The nervous system begins to rest. Because the brain finally understands. Uncertainty is not death. Loss is not collapse. Letting go is not the end of control. Sometimes, letting go is the first real form of freedom. And the most powerful shift is realizing that peace does not come from controlling life, but from trusting yourself inside life. When you stop demanding guarantees, you begin to live with openness. You begin to move forward even with incomplete answers. And that is the real maturity of the mind. Not certainty, but courage.